Sunt de peste 100.000 de oameni în București. Iohannis trebuie să plece. Acest președinte uzurpator care a pus un guvern ilegitim trebuie să plece de urgență. Românii și-au ales președintele. Trebuie să reluăm de urgență turul 2 și oamenii să spună cine să conducă România.
For those who are listening on podcast, that was a Romanian man walking in the street with protesters, talking about how they need to take to the streets and annul the decision of the Constitutional Court to have annulled the round 2 of the elections and reversed the win for the outsider politician Călin Georgescu. And right now, as we're going to get into this, I started a little bit early just to let the crowd trickle in. I think we can probably end this now. This is what's going on in the streets of Romania. And if you haven't heard this story, I stumbled across it when someone brought it to my attention, and then did a very shallow deep dive into it, and then discovered that it's an absolute insane story that is the antithesis of democracy. And if this precedent in Romania stands, it will be the new norm for annulling election results across the world, and in particular the West. When you understand the details of this, it will blow your mind. If you don't know who Călin Georgescu is, you will after this. I'm not going to waste any more time than I need to right now, because I know we've got a limited time with Călin, Mr. Georgescu, who is right now fighting for democracy in Romania, quite literally. Călin, you ready to come in? Thumbs up. We're going to bring him in whether he's ready or not. 3, 2, 1. Add to stage. Sir, at the risk of asking a question, which the question might translate badly, how goes the battle? How is everything going?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. Everything is going well, but you have a great name, Freiheit.
Yep.
Freedom.
It means freedom. And I was going to mention my grandmother, my entire grandmother's side of the family on my mother's side were from Romania, but like late 1800s. Then they moved, to Canada.
Yeah.
Călin,
it's very interesting that you are in Canada, by the way, because there are similar things which is happening in Canada with Romania, by the way. Just to, if you allow me to go in this introduction, because I like very much that you are Canadian, because you know very well the situation with Trudeau, which in fact he resigned, but he didn't leave the office. It's exactly the situation in Romania, I mean, the former president is still in the office. He resigned based on the Constitution Act, but in fact he didn't, and he didn't leave the office, so he remained in the position illegally. Of course, in Canada it's a little bit more complicated, but in any case, the same situation. But moreover, Trudeau is a guy, is a typical guy, whatever prime minister, whatever he is, that is not for the people, but is for the swamp, for this.
Călin, if I may interrupt you, the chat is saying your audio is a little low. I've increased it on my end as much as I could. Are you able to enhance it on your end? If you can increase it on your side, that would be good as well. I'm just going to maybe adjust and see if this gets better. Sorry to interrupt you. Audio's low. Yeah, we'll see if we can jack it up there. And Călin, I should also tell you, like I moved, if not temporarily, maybe permanently to Florida because of what was going on. There you go. I think that's better now.
It's good now.
I think it sounded better. Yeah, it's cutting in and out, but do
you hear me well now?
I hear you. I think I'll see if the chat is hearing you well as well. Yeah, that's better. Okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Perfect.
So
so we said about Trudeau, right?
Yes, and that he has announced his resignation and not left office.
Exactly. Yeah, which is quite similar what is happening in Romania, because as I said, he resigned, but he didn't leave the office, and moreover, as I said, he is a typical person, governmental person, which is not for the people, but is for the swamp. Okay, it's a bunch of globalists and oligarchs. So in fact, the wave which is today, and definitely will be, is to drain the swamp. And we have to succeed everywhere. I mean, in the whole world. In one moment will happen that, even that now it's in a, not in early beginning, but we are in the beginning of the process to drain the swamp, but will happen everywhere. I'm telling you, Romania, Canada, United States, with President Trump, so will happen everywhere for sure. That absolutely sure. So uh, just to say there are similar things even in Canada, you know, which has a very bad economic situation, high inflation. We know all of us about this high housing cost. Is exactly typical everywhere, including Romania, the subject, of course, which is for us today. But just I want to tell you that they have the same agenda, the same purpose, in order to not be for the people, as I said, they are just for their group of oligarchs and globalist system. Thank you.
Călin, so I got to ask you like two questions. The media describes you as an outsider, as if to say, you know, you came out of nowhere. You have a relatively extensive political history, a political experience.
Well, of course, first of all, because I worked in my life also in the Ministry of Environment twice. I worked also for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a few years, and particularly 17 years. I worked for United Nations, so I served United Nations 17 years, 18 years almost. And with this occasion, I had significant experience and an approach regarding the, let's say, the political level, and in fact, the corner, David, the corner of the political things everywhere. And what has happened today is, let's say, it's a process which they had behind a numbers of problems, and particularly the most important one is the peace. Because in 1945, when was the beginning, the born of United Nations, they had a simple goal to keep the peace, or in fact peace building, not only peacekeeping. And from 1945 until 2025, there were not only Ukraine, there are a lot of conflicts and wars everywhere in the world. So this does mean that the peace, first of all, doesn't exist, but also the spirit and the objective in order to promote this was not. And for this reason, I can make a definition also for my side that I'm a whistleblower, because I know very well the situation inside, and not only in United Nations but in different international organizations, which in fact they had not, and they have not any interest to keep the peace, but just to promote the war. So in my campaign, for example, in the moment when I said about peace, they are alert to the word peace because they need war. This is the main important point.
So very briefly, because just so people understand the political process, Romania is a semi-parliamentary democratic system, but I think people need to understand how the presidential election first round, second round works in order to understand what was done to you. If you could briefly explain how that works.
Very briefly, we had the presidential election. The first round was November 24. We were 14 candidates for this position, okay? And after the first round, in November 24, as I said, my position was on the first position. I was located, and was another lady in the second one. I was with 24%, and the lady on the second position for the president as a party, Romania, she had almost 19%.
Okay.
So After the first round, the Constitutional Court, including the presidential administration, including the Secret Service, they declared very clear that the first round was accepted and is done, is official, recognized, and of course we are running the second round. But in the moment when 3 days before the second round, already they confirm again that the first round is absolutely clean and, let's say, they respect the rules. And on Friday, December 6th, when already they start the vote outside of Romania, in Europe, in Australia, in New Zealand, okay, in the afternoon of Friday, they cancel the election.
If I may, one quick question: when you say there's 20 some odd candidates running for the presidential election, 14. They're not. This is not of this. This is across all parties, correct? It's not like primaries within a party.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
they were just. I mean, I think myself, I was independent, and that's it. Or maybe not one or two, but.
And then. What is supposed to happen in the second round? It's number 1 and 2 who then run against each other for the presidency?
Exactly. To run again for the president, and they cancel the elections. I mean, the second round of elections was illegally and unconstitutionally canceled. With in other words, they stolen the votes of the people. And with a, let's say, reason that they said that they were Russian
interference,
which they have not any evidence, and even today they have not evidence on that. But they continue to say about this subject with no evidence. And the Constitutional Court, as I said, they canceled the election, and from the December 6th, the people are on the street, as you show already in your introduction. And everybody knows that the people are on the street, and of course they are fighting for the democracy, for the freedom, and for their right to vote, because the basically elementary freedom is to have the right to vote. Whatever person you vote, it's your right. Nobody has the right to cancel, but of course they cancel that, and of course, they don't like to be someone who they don't like the system.
Well, we're going to get into you and why you're a threat, particularly to NATO or the globalists. But before we even get there, who files the complaint? Who decides to intervene in the election? Surely it wasn't the other person that you were running against.
I told you it's a Constitutional Court of Romania, which has 9 members. So 9 members with another one who is a former president, Klaus Iohannis. They together, they decide to cancel the elections.
Like you.
So in other words, nine people decide for 19 million people. In fact, for 9 million who in fact they vote already on the first round. So it's incredible. 9 people decide for 9 million.
And the reasons that they gave, although from what I understand, no evidence provided whatsoever. And
no evidence. And I wish to underline to you that in December the last year, the former president, Klaus Iohannis, was in Brussels. And exactly what you said now, the journalists, they asked him, do you have any evidence on what's happened? And he said, very frankly, he said, no, we have no evidence. And the journalist asked, okay, but how you decide that? No, we have suspicion on that. Yeah. So
the suspicion is that you were using Russian interference, whether or not it was asked for, or whether or not you had a role in it, interference from Russia and TikTok influencers, which is where you ran a successful campaign using TikTok. Those were the 2 bases of the complaint.
Yeah. So, dear David, two things. First of all, I have no relationship with any interference. There doesn't exist any interference for Russia. Beside that, they have no evidence, but they didn't ask also Russian embassy or any Russian official about this, and is nothing until today. Absolutely nothing. No evidence on this subject. And second, social media, uh, everybody's was used social media. By the way, on evaluation, assessment made by the all the 14 candidates, I had a place which they use TikTok. I had the fourth place, so I was in the position number 4 as a candidate who used TikTok. Beside that, of course, the social media is free to be used by everybody. I mean, it's nothing to complain on this subject. But beside TikTok, which they accuse me, it's not this. It was just my narrative position, because I said from early beginning, not only from my campaign, even from before, from many years before, I said that I am for my people. I am together with them. I am for working class, for working families, and I'm dedicated to spread the productive property as well as the power of each citizen. So I'm totally dedicated for my people and to recognize that the power is of them. And I'm the employee of the Romanian people, not vice versa. And of course, this make discrepancy on the system. Besides that, I said permanently that I am the president for peace, a president of peace. And as I told you in early beginning, they are alert to the word peace because they need war. And peace and my position with the people, in a sense, to recognize the people, they have the capacity to decide what is good and what is not, of course, put me in a very difficult position in front of the system, who decide in the end to cancel the elections.
Um, so they canceled round 2, or at least postponed, annulled the round 1. So what are they doing? What is the procedure? They're redoing the first round again?
They are coming with a how I can say, with a proposal already confirmed by the government about the new elections. But the new elections are a fraud even bigger, because already they cancel, as I said to you, illegally and unconstitutionally the second round. In order to put again a new election, that's mean another fraud, another illegacy, an unconstitutionally act. So all the people from the street, they ask permanently that we ask for the second round, because the first round already was done. We ask for the second round, and that's it. Period. We don't discuss about new elections. Doing elections is another manipulation, another trap, from the system, in order to put in difficulty the democracy, and in fact to put in difficulty the people and all the situation. I wish to be very clear that this is what is happening in Romania. We spoke also a little bit about Canada as well, but this is a precedent, and this is a problem. This is a precedent, and I'm sure what is happening in Canada with Trudeau is from the precedent of Romania, and not only. I mean, we have seen a lot of situations surround, but also we have seen a positive situation, another the precedent in a sense positive act, what is happening in Croatia today, what is happening, of course, in the United States with the President Trump, in Austria, which also is a change, a very real change. What will happen, and I'm sure, in February in Germany during the election. So in Slovakia, by the way, also, it's a very important point. So there are positions in Europe, and not only in whole world, which call for a change. We call for a big shift. The people, they cannot stay anymore in under this oppression and dictatorship from the globalist system. It's a dictatorship of the oligarch system. And here we are. For this reason, I said to you in the early beginning about Trudeau, because he is a person for the swamp, for this bunch of oligarchs and globalists. And we have to drain the swamp, not to keep going.
So from what I understood, there is no higher court in Romania that's going to overturn the Constitutional Court's decision. Is that accurate?
It's almost accurate, because Constitutional Court of Romania, based on the law, these 9 people decide whatever they want, and nobody can intervene. So this is a big problem, which was started in 1991. With in other words, David, very important is for all the people to understand. They decide to make this court, Constitutional Court, in order to protect the system when will be the case. When they need to be protect them, they made this, how can I say, illegally, in fact, court, because the court is just their self and nobody they can decide. But you know, the last decision, and this we trust totally, because we are, first of all, myself, I'm Christian Orthodox, and my people and all the Romania are almost a Christian. We are a Christian country, and we are strongly believe that the last decision is from God. Even they try to manipulate, but in the last word will be from God.
Are they trying to run round 1 again, or are they just trying to go to round 2 without you?
Yeah, no, they put on the table that maybe I shall have interdiction to participate. They try to manipulate all the scenarios in this respect, and for this reason they try to put new elections. But I'm, how I can say, I'm very relaxed, and you know, I'm strongly believe, and we believe in the truth, and nobody can change.
Well, I mean, so I appreciate there's protests in the street right now, and I don't know how big and vast they are, but what is the court like concretely planning to do right now? They're going to redo round 1. For the time being, they're going to let you participate in it and just hope that you don't finish first or second again. And what's the timeline?
For the moment, I am with my lawyers. I'm running, of course, to act this illegally and unconstitutionally, as I said, the act, unconstitutionally cancellation. And of course, we fight in the justice in order to obtain the legal frame of the Constitution Act. And of course, we fight for that, again, with my lawyers. Similar and in parallel, we act in different international institutions, in Strasbourg as well, in Hague, in Venice as well. So we continue to fight in all the international positions as well, beside the domestic one related with justice in Romania, of course. So we don't give up. We continue to fight, and this is the most important point. We continue to work. We continue to trust in our freedom, in our democracy. We continue to fight for our right to vote, because the most important and basic elementary process in democracy is to have the right of freedom to vote.
Now, it's an interesting thing. Elena Lasconi
was in the second round. She is a leader of the Romanian party, USR, and she was the second position after the first
After
round.
you.
Yeah. After
Okay.
me with 19%, almost. Myself, I was with 23rd, 23%. And as I said, the second round of election was illegally cancelled.
But now, so my question is this: is she not upset about them annulling the first round? Because
She had some very good questions. She had several positions on these aspects, but she didn't insist too much. But
Mhm.
she had definitely she had a position against the decision of the Constitutional Court as well.
Yeah, because presumably she would be running against you right now in round two, and if she thinks you're an easy
Yeah,
person to beat, she'd want that race.
absolutely, absolutely. But again, the system is very complicated, the political system. And
Eh,
again, don't forget, David, I am independent. Myself, I said very clear, I'm just with my people. And by the way, the budget of the campaign, and this was my decision, was absolutely zero, with evidence from the bank, with evidence from my bank officer, and we demonstrate that we can do a campaign with zero budget as well.
it's stunning. So for the time being, they're going to run round one again. They have to be trying to disqualify you, right? Because if they allege that you had Russian interference or TikTok influencers, they can't let you run again if they said you did something wrong the first time to overturn the results.
It's not very easy to, I mean, because first of all, they cannot do that. I mean, there are not evidence, first of all, and we are not alone. I mean, we discuss about million of peoples behind me. I mean, we discuss about it's a spirit in all the country. Besides, David, very important. All the Romanian people from abroad, they are permanently on the street. If we discuss about Italy, Spain, Germany, Netherlands, UK, Canada, United States, all the Romanian people are on the street because they, of course, they had already the percentage before the second round, which for me, even in the first part of election on Friday, you remember I told you on December 6th, I had already 70% of the voters. So they know that the situation will be like that, and for this reason, they, as I said, illegally they canceled the election. What we are looking for, and only for that, we are looking for the second round. Period. No other things.
Second round against Elena, and to
Second round
respect.
to be happen. Second round to be happen, and to be installed the democracy again in Romania. Otherwise, they kill the democracy, they kill the freedom, and of course they kill the free elections, which are the basic point of the democracy.
Well, that might be their goal and not an accident, Călin. The
No,
funny thing is,
of
when
course,
I
but
when I was flying, I was flying back to America, and a flight attendant recognized me from the channel, and she said she was from Romania, and she said, "Thank you for talking about the story." And I was like, "I'm going to try to get Călin on the channel." And she said, "It's just atrocious." She was in the midst of writing in her vote for the second round when they annulled it, and it's an absolute outrage. And the internet tries to portray you as a far right candidate, whatever. And I'm like, I don't even care if that's true. Did the people vote for him or not? And there's no allegation that the votes were illegitimate. The people of Romania voted for you.
yeah, it's true. It's true. This is absolutely true. In fact, the people of Romania, the people are aware of the fact that this was a coup d'etat order from abroad and implemented by oligarch system in Romania. Because definitely there are influences, interference from outside. Exactly what they said to me from Russia, but there are not evidence. But we have evidence regarding the implication of Brussels in this process, and in general for from European Union.
I noticed that there was some involvement from, or at least commentary from, I want to say Anthony Blinken over in America, who has
including including Blinken, including Thierry Breton. You remember
oh yes, he's the leader of the UN, or I forget what his title is,
yeah.
but
Yeah, he said a few days ago about this subject that what's happening in Romania we shall do in Germany. I mean, it's absolutely clear that there are disparates that they lose the power. In fact, David, they lost already, but they don't know yet.
So Romania is a NATO member, so it's a strategically, at least from NATO's perspective, of a critical ally member, bordering Ukraine. And when you come out criticizing NATO, criticizing UN, and it's an interesting thing that people need to appreciate. You're not criticizing UN as an outsider. You're criticizing the UN as a whistleblower, like you mentioned it. They cannot have an independent, non-NATO supporting, non-proxy war supporting president of a NATO member that is bordering with the current proxy war nation, the Ukraine.
Look, David, for me as leader, for me is Romania first. I am okay, and I didn't say never that we cancel something related with European Union or with NATO. But for sure, we shall negotiate inside. Benefit and the welfare for my people. This I said. And number two, I said that on the constitutional rule of NATO, we know, all of us, that NATO is a defensive organization, correct?
In theory.
Good. Well, one moment. In writing, legally, is defensive. In the moment when this become offensive organization, I have no interest on that. It's not our problem, it's not our war. And moreover, I said very clear that we have nothing to do with what is happening in Ukraine. Period. Nothing to do. So I am a person for peace. I said permanently that in the first minute I shall start for peace to stop urgently this war. This was my words, and I underline again the same words, and I shall keep this. Nothing and nobody will against Romania, and Romania is not in the position to go in this war. It's nothing to do with that, simply like that.
The second round should have occurred. There should be a new president right now. What's the term limit for the president?
What does mean term limit?
Oh, how long? When are you supposed to have elections by? And when was the current
They
president?
announced again. They announced now that will be in May. But I repeat to you, this is a new elections. It's are a fraud. New elections, even bigger than what's happened in December 6th. So we cannot accept to be new elections. We accept only to be the second round repeat. That's it.
Are the protests meaningful? Like I see videos and it looks
The
big, but you
protests
can never
are
really tell.
permanently for the second round. The protests on the street are permanently for the second round. Because again, I repeat, the process of elections, the voters, which there are few thousands voters, almost 30, 40,000 people, they vote already on Friday.
For the second round, for
the second round.
Yeah.
And they cancel simply like that on Friday afternoon. So this is not possible. This is not only undemocratic, but it's unconstitutionally and totally illegally what's happened. So nobody can accept to be other things instead to repeat again just the second round. That's it.
It is a coup, and when we're living through the coup of the Maidan revolution,
it's
a coup.
Exactly.
Period.
It's a coup. Yeah, it's a coup. Yeah, absolutely.
And so protests are going on, and those are the demands. Is the international community getting involved yet, or critical of what the current administration has done?
Oh yes, Oh yes, it's everywhere. That I think Romania in this moment it's everywhere in the world. The whole world, they know about what situation in Romania. This is absolutely clear, and social media is absolutely full about this situation and to support Romanian people. There are many protests everywhere. Also, the televisions from everywhere they mentioned that. I had even yesterday. I have a interview, the second interview, Newsmax, as well, United States. I had different interviews around the world as well, and I shall have also in the next days. I have this interview today with you. So everybody, of course, it's has interest on this subject. Besides that, again, could be a precedent which can happen in any place of the world. I told you about Canada. Canada is an example. Canada, again, it's was coming after the situation in Romania, correct?
Correct.
Why? Because it's a precedent. And they dictate whatever they want. This is a point.
Well, Călin, like it's amazing because in America, you have that guy named Jamie Raskin. I don't know if you know who he is, talking about annulling the election if America votes for Donald Trump, the insurrectionist. The way they did it in your case is so even more offensive because they invoked strategies. Even if you had a TikTok army of influencers, Kamala Harris paid influencers to publicly support her.
Yes, it's true.
And
It's
so
true. Yeah.
this is a precedent that not just can be used anywhere, will be used everywhere, specifically to boot out and potentially worse the outsider who is not for this, endless wars and the globalist agenda. And the way you describe the constitutional court, it sounds exactly like the corrupt court out of Brazil, which basically controls the country. And
That's
you have
correct.
judges determining democracy. Like in Romania itself, and as relates to the war in Ukraine with Russia and the sanctions and everything that's been happening, what is the sentiment? Or is it unanimous support of Ukraine? Is there a proportion of the Romanian population that doesn't think Putin is an existential threat, an enemy? Are people getting fed up with this endless war?
Look, the majority of the Romanian people, they don't want to be involved in the war. That's it. Period. It's not a point if they like or don't like the situation there of Putin. Nobody cares about what is going on in Russia. We are concentrated and we are focused in our life. We need peace, and we are running for peace. Only with peace we can create our welfare and our let's say our economy to be developed, and of course our security for our children, for our family. We as Romanian people and myself, we are just for peace. We don't want to be involved in the war which is not ours again. And by the way, to be a war in the middle of Europe, it's incredible. I mean, you have to use first of all the dialogue, not the weapons. And we know very well that behind the war, any war, not only this one, it's a financial banking system. And you know very well which is the head of the snake, which is this financial and banking system. And we know very well their interest on that. We cannot accept this. We are a country who is devoted for peace. Period. Who is for war is absolutely incredible to believe that someone is looking for war. So again, the majority of the people, of Romanian people, are for peace. I am for peace, and I am fighting for peace.
Now, and it's an amazing thing where you say like NATO is supposed to be defensive and not offensive, and then people are saying
defensive is fine. If it's defensive, is fine. Let's be very clear. I'm not against NATO or against European Union. No, I'm fine. But again, I wish to negotiate the best for my country. I wish to negotiate the best. No other things.
But I guess the question is this: if well, it's an attack. Call it an invasion of Ukraine, and then members of NATO, or at least the people who want this war, are going to say, let's admit Ukraine as a NATO member, and then we can justify this as a defensive measure. I mean, I guess my broader question is, in your view, is NATO being used as a defensive tool, or has it become an offensive excuse to go to endless war?
Well, in the moment when Romania become member of NATO, we know very well that we discuss about the defensive organization, which is fine. And everybody likes, I like very much as well. Everything is okay. I have nothing to do with that. Okay? Let's be very clear. But not to be offensive, because to be offensive does mean that I shall be involved in a war which is not mine war. You understand me? So this is extremely important. It's a huge difference. In fact, it's not in the constitutional rules of NATO, who is very clear, stipulate NATO is a defensive organization. I don't discuss more about this subject. It's in the moment when it's offensive, that means that it's not anymore NATO. Besides that, I have seen the influence of European Union, who try to push and to control NATO in the last week, in fact, because all of us, we know, and they know also very well, that the President Trump is also for peace, correct? And they want to push and to insist for war before the January 20, when President Trump will be officially nominated at the White House.
I'm wondering if they're going to try to, get inspired by Romania and see what they can do to prevent the transfer of power to Donald Trump.
Exactly. So look, David, Romania is a great and historical nation. What Romanian people did so far, it's fantastic, because it's an example, it's a precedent, if you like, for the whole world, that we have our dignity, we want our freedom, and we have to fight for our freedom. Okay, so we are a nation who, in fact, a nation who was wake up, and he said, period. This is a boundary, and we want to replace the system, and we want the people to decide what is good and what is not for our nation. So and I have to understand that until now, from December 6th until today, each day the people, they were in the street, David. Each day. Even that one day, for example, Friday, the last Friday or Sunday, there were almost 200,000 people on the street. But each day are the people on the street in order to ask about the freedom, to ask about the democracy, and to ask about the second round. So the people, they understood very well the situation. In order to be developed, the country, in order to concentrate for what we have to do, we have to understand that the freedom is the most important part of our life.
Now, you're waiting for the Constitutional Court either to change its decision to concede?
Not only for the Constitutional Court. Tomorrow, for example, I'm in a high court with my lawyers in order to, of course, to fight for the same situation. In fact, I'm looking for the justice to make his job and to respect, first of all, the Constitution of Romania, and to respect the democracy. This I'm looking for, not particularly for the Constitutional Court or for another court. I am looking for the justice to respect the law, to respect the principle of democracy, and to respect the people. Period.
Have you spoken to Trump, or have you been in touch with Donald Trump?
I was not in contact with him, but I'm in contact with most part of his team, and of course we communicate permanently.
Okay, very cool. And
not
the
with,
question,
not with him directly.
Okay, excellent. And I want to be very respectful of your time, because I know you I think I might be going over it. For the people out there, who want to do something. Now, your lawyers involved, and you're fighting the political, legal side of it. What can people in Romania do? What can people abroad do in order to help, and how can they stay up to date with the story?
Very good question. So, dear David, first of all, we have to spread everywhere that we have the right to be free from the moment when we were born, and we have to remain like that. And the time for change is already done. This is impossible to be changed. It's a snowball effect everywhere. And all the people in the whole world, they have to understand this. For the Romanian people, they don't give up. They are permanently on the street. We cannot be in the knees. We are straight, and we have to fight for what we receive from God. Freedom. Period.
Fantastic. If I may ask one final question for my own curiosity. The Nord Stream, it's a little off topic, but it sort of relates to everything. Romania, Romanians, Europe, is anybody talking about the Nord Stream pipelines being, blown up, or is this just no longer a subject of discussion in Europe?
Well, we know about this subject. I know personally this subject. Of course, all this manipulation and, of course, distraction from the subject is coming in order to cancel Russia, particularly from let's say all the economic aspects. Okay, but let's be very clear. All these sanctions, which let's say the international system put to Russia, was an effect, a dramatic effect for Europe, because right now, probably you know or not, but UK is a dramatical situation regarding the gas. Okay, Germany is the same. In general, Europe is in a very, very complicated situation. They have no possibility for, as before, to develop the energy, the production, and based on the energy, there are a lot of industry cancelled because they have no energy in Germany. In Romania, the situation is the same. But of course, all these things, they have one common interest: the natural resources, David. All this fighting, all this war everywhere, including in Ukraine, is just for the natural resources. For this reason, who try to control, and in general, we are talking about the oligarch system internationally, is to control the whole world and to control the natural resources. Africa, it's already a continent who decide we want to be free. And many other countries, Brazil as well, India, Croatia in Europe, Hungary, Austria as well in the last 10 days, last week. So step by step, everybody wants to cancel this dictatorship, this totalitarianism, which they impose to the countries based on loan, on debt, in principle, and of course, in order to plunder the natural resources from the countries, in a sense, to put the countries in a very difficult situation. Look, Canada, who is a very, very rich country, in what terrible situation is today. Why is like this? A country who has everything. Only Canada can live only through energy, hydro energy, which has, a dimension, incredible big dimension of energy. But he has economic problems, as I said to you. He has high inflation and a lot of dramatic things for the population. Okay, so we have to understand that the freedom is coming also from our independence, financial independence. We don't have to be under the pressure and the control of the oligarch system, which in fact they try to control everything in the whole world. Coming from World Economic Forum, coming from World Bank, from IMF, from United Nations, from all these international institutions, which they try to manipulate the people for a simply group, a small group of people, which is oligarch systems around the world. Thank you.
Călin, thank you very much. This was fantastic. The very last question: the saint over your shoulder. Who is on the painting behind you?
Ah, look, one moment. Look, this is Sfânta Filoftea, but this is very important. This was made by a child in Romania, and I received from her in the court in Bucharest. She gave it to me. Probably she's almost 9 years old, 10 years old, but she was fantastic, and I keep in my house, and I put in a very good and important spiritual position for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Călin. Ordinarily, I'd end with you, but I'll text you afterwards. Thank you very much. Phenomenal, and you will have my continued support from the free state of Florida.
Thank you very much, David. Very much.
Thank you. Godspeed. God bless. Bye-bye. That was phenomenal. It is amazing. I saw someone in the chat say it's great to see populist leaders like this emerging right now. What's even more amazing, here we go, this is it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful how leaders like this man are emerging with this message. What's truly amazing is the way they do the preemptive smear in the MSM, when you're like, if you don't know anything about the story and you don't know anything about the man because you're a Canadian schnook living in Florida who's mildly familiar with Romanian politics. My grandmother was Romanian back in the day. Other one was actually from Ukraine, although it might have been part of Russia at the time. I'm not exactly sure on the borders. And you go to look into these stories, and the first thing that you see anywhere is the smear campaign. It's the preemptive AstroTurf smear. I go to Grok just to check who is Călin Georgescu, and what do you think it's gonna tell me? You can predict the words that are going to be there, and Grok is among the more neutral. Călin Georgescu is a Romanian politician, agronomist, and conspiracy theorist known for his involvement in sustainable development, his political career, and controversial public statement. Here's an overview. I mean, it's even Grok, in as much as it's better than Wikipedia or ChatGPT or the other ones, they've got to do the wrap-up smear so that you are persuaded, predictive programming or pre-programmed to think you're going to hate this person because they're some form of far-right extremist. It's an amazing thing that you can't even be Christian and loyal to your faith without having to endure these slanders. So I started looking into this story, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. And you like, I trust but verify. I knew a lot of the information, before Călin answered these questions, that there was no evidence of actual Russian interference. There was no evidence of wrongdoing. There was no evidence of anything untoward, other than the fact that this guy, who ran on zero budget, won the first round, and allegedly, apparently, had a pretty decent TikTok following, or at least a TikTok campaign. And they come in and annul the results on a Friday afternoon while people had already started mailing in their votes for the second round, Romanians living abroad. And why? Because the guy comes in there and, is of the opinion that NATO is not an offensive tool. It never has been, except, if you're Kosovo. It never has been unless, you're just, NATO in modern times. And if you come in and talk about religion, talk about protecting your people, talk about nationalism in the proper patriotic sense, in the populist sense, and you happen to be Christian, guess what? You're a far-right extremist, conspiracy theorist. And it's amazing. Well, first of all, what's amazing is that I actually reached out to Călin and we got in touch, and he agreed to come on, or came on. It's just amazing. This story needs to amass a momentum of a snowball. And maybe an avalanche is a better analogy. It needs to trigger an avalanche of support, because what happened in Romania, there's no legal justification for it. What there is, like Călin says, an oligarchy. You're ruled by the courts. The courts come in, and if they don't like the will of the people, the decision of the will of the people, they'll overturn it. It's effectively kind of, to some extent, mutatis mutatis, but the other way around. What didn't happen in 2020? The courts didn't get involved because the decision, it was already written. I couldn't understand who he says the same was. It was on the. If you look at the name was on it. I couldn't pretend to know, even if I did know, because that's not my religious wheelhouse. But it's a beautiful. It was, first of all, to the kid who did that, congratulations. That's phenomenal. I got something similar. I got a truck from a kid that sent me, which is awesome, from the Ottawa trucker protest. So, and I didn't get to any questions because there was not enough time. The one thing I would love, if I can get around to, which would have nothing to do with this injustice, but maybe we can follow up on it having been righted, is to know what it was like growing up in Romania back in the Soviet days. My maternal grandmother's parents left. I had to double check with my mom before we went live. They left. It would be like either the late 1800s or the early 1900s, and my grandmother was born in Canada. But like, what is that life like? And then you get your freedom, and now you realize, oh yeah, we substituted one form of tyranny for another, and now you get a populist, not even anti-NATO, but if you Google it, that's what they're going to say he is. Călin is weighs his words very well. He's actually very, very soothing to listen to. But he's you hear them talk, and you hear them talk in long format interview, and you understand the degree to which all they do is lie to you. And in their 5-second sound clips on MSNBC and whatever, they smear and they destroy and they preemptively pre-program you to think that you hate somebody, so that you should discredit everything that they have to say. And I can give you many names to that effect, and without getting into current Twitter wars, people not understanding when it's happening in real time because they already believe that they hate the person for all the right reasons. That's a long way back. You'll be telling me you're related to the Vikings next. No, I can tell you one thing for certain. I ain't related to any Vikings. That is clear from genetics, Chris. Thank you for asking them. So that was fantastic. All right, let me see what's going on here in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Encryptus says, we got a tipped questions over in our locals. It says, Encryptus says, great interview, great guest. Audio, LOL. Great work, sir. I love this guy. I don't think anybody's going to watch that and not love Călin Georgescu. Oh, and Encryptus says, the saint is Saint Philote. Philote? Here, check this out. Encryptus, guys, is like I could call him a big brain, but knowing that he's programmed AI, or he can get the answer to every question. Saint Philote was born in Athens in 1522 to an illustrious family. Against her will, she was married to a man who proved to be the most cruel. When he died 3 years later, the saint took up the monastic life and established a convent in which she became a true mother to her disciples, many whom enslaved and abused by the Muslim Turks also ran to her for refuge. Because of this, the Turkish rulers became enraged and came to her convent, dragged her by force out of the church, and beat her cruelly. After a few days, she reposed, giving thanks to God for all things. This came to pass in the year 1589. She was renowned for her almsgiving. I don't know what that means. Almsgiving, look it up. It's a historical or religious context, the practice of giving money or food to poor people. And with Saint Hierotheus and Dionysius, the Areopagite, I'm sorry, guys, is considered a patron of the city of Athens. History is amazing, and the only unfortunate part of history is that you have to live long enough in order to be able to appreciate it. Over on our Viva Frei Rumble community, hold on, share screen. Let me see here. We got King of Biltong, Come tasty, high-protein meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Get some, biltongusa.com. Code VIVA for 10% off. And that's it. Yeah, that's fun. So spread the word. Spread that story, because it's it is the precedent for the rest of the world. I'd say the rest of the world. Maybe I should say more the rest of the West, because they don't put up with shit like that in certain countries. In certain countries, the courts come in and annul the will of the people. Things don't. Now I'm being told, Furby Slayer says it's Philotea, not Philotea. She's modern, martyred in 1959. And I'll go look it up afterwards. Saint Philotea from Romania was killed when she was a child. That is why the young girl painted her. Well, it looks like Encryptus is getting corrected by the aggregate knowledge of our community here. Yeah, so that's it. Spread the word. Now, other unrelated stories. It'll be a shorter stream than usual today. What day is it today? It's Wednesday. Oh, I'm going to be on with Dr. Drew today, I believe. Hold on, let me just double check in my calendar. Just go over here and make sure that we are 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Drew tonight. Booyah! He was mentioning Canada, mentioning Justin Trudeau, who's still in power despite having prorogued Parliament. And my bottom line, that's proving more and more true every day. It doesn't matter whether Trudeau's in power or his replacements. His replacements are probably going to be worse than him. Mark Carney doing the rounds on social media. Hold on. Mark Carney. He was on with which one was he on with? Jon Stewart? No, it wasn't Jon Stewart. He was on with one of the guys. He was on with Jon Stewart. I don't know why Jon Stewart is treating this guy, Mark Carney, like royalty. Let me just pull up a few clips because it's fantastic. Mark Carney, who looks like the one, at least according to the betting markets, who's going to replace Justin Trudeau. It's either him or Chrystia Freeland, neither of which are any better than the other, and I think both of which are worse than the current, but remains to be seen. He's doing like a publicity tour, and he's getting the standard propagandists to carry his water, paint him like a good guy. Look at this.
A wild hypothetical. Let's say the candidate wasn't part of the government. Let's say the candidate did have a lot of economic experience. Let's say the candidate did deal with crises. Let's say the candidate had a plan to deal with the challenges in the here and now.
Sneaky, you're running as an outsider.
I am an outsider.
Mark Carney is about as much of an outsider as I am an NBA basketball player. Translation, he's not. He might be called the deepest depths of the swamp, not an outsider. And the only reason someone might think he's an outsider is because he's been so deeply embedded within that swamp that you never knew he existed. But he's going to arise like a veritable swamp creature and snatch the power from Justin Trudeau. And so whoever the hell is the new leader of the Liberal Party, same as the old, what's important is that political party gets its ass shellacked in the next federal election, which can't come soon enough. You see, there were more here. Let's see here. Let's go with, how do you spell Mark? Is it K? Yes, Mark Carney. Mark Carney. Let's just get a couple of these clips of him on various. Here we go. Let's try this. Let's try this one. I haven't seen all of these. I've seen a bunch and I'm just going to pull up, Let's do a little Google because we're going to get to a Canadian story after this.
It's really difficult for a candidate to come in who is saddled with the policies that are on.
But let's say.
Okay, this is the same one as before. So forget that. Carney was doing. Let me see here. Video. He was doing the rounds. I think he was on with John. He was on with one of them. Oh, listen to this. It's so amazing.
Climate change.
By the way, he's actually in the haunted house from The Shining. Just so everybody knows. I think he's in the bathroom scene where there's like that zombie lady who's rotting away in the tub. I'm joking. Talking about climate change and what this globalist WEF stooge wants to impose on Canada if and when he ever gets the chance.
Climate change is an existential threat. We all recognize that. There's increasing urgency around that. But the converse of that, the flip side of that is if you're taking steps, making investments, coming up with new technologies, changing the way you do business, all in service of reducing and eliminating that threat, you're creating value. And what we have seen increasingly, spurred initially by the Sustainable Development Goals, accelerated with Paris, and then through social movements and others and governments acting, is society is putting tremendous value on achieving net zero. So the companies and those who invest in them and lend to them,
Here comes the carrot and the stick.
will be rewarded. But those who are lagging behind and are still part of the problem will be punished.
This mother effer is not even in power, and he's talking like a filthy fascist tyrant. Yep, there you go. Your biggest concern would not be Justin Trudeau not resigning. Our biggest problem and our biggest fear would be Justin Trudeau ceding the reins, or at least having this guy take over. I think you got the idea. What I wanted to do was bring up one story in particular, which is shocking. We've been talking about, the population under Justin Trudeau. Let me just make sure I didn't get this wrong. The population under Justin Trudeau, his 9, going to be 10 years of power, I think it grew by 7 million. What did the population of Canada grow under Justin Trudeau? I think it's 7 million. Just going to make sure. I love asking questions that are borderline incomprehensible, and Grok still gets them. The country, so let's see, we got the company from a population of about 35.8 million in 2015 to 41 million by 2025. This represents an increase of approximately 5.2 million over his tenure. 5.2 million, 97% of it is immigration. So it's an amazing thing. You've caused the country to grow by opening it up to the world, not from any domestic growth. With all of the consequences that brings, which Justin Trudeau finally recognized because of the housing crisis, because you're not necessarily bringing in the most skilled tax-paying citizens. The healthcare system can't deal with it. The housing system can't deal with it. The police system can't deal with it. And it's utterly destroying the country. But set that aside. So over 5 million, let's say 5.2 million, if those are by the numbers, and I'll take it for what it's worth, but it's well over 5 million. Growth, 97% is via immigration. And some of those, foreigners are foreign students who may or may not be leaving when their visas expire, but more importantly, currently may or may not be abiding by the terms of their visas. This is flipping wild. From the Globe and Mail, I got the... What day was this? This is today. I just posted it earlier. Nearly 50,000 foreign students listed as no-shows by Canadian schools. Just to understand what that means. First of all, I don't know what a standard default rate is on a visa in terms of not respecting the terms of the visa, if it's a student visa and actually going to your colleges or universities or schooling system and abiding by the terms of the visa. I don't know what the standard default rate is. Maybe this is just in line with industry standards. But when you let in so many freaking students on student visas, that number, although in line with industry standards, becomes wildly bigger than what it should be. 20,000 students from India were reported non-compliant with their student visas and not attending schools where they were meant to be studying. People walk past banners inviting students. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Listen to this. Close to 50,000 international students who received study permits to come to Canada were reported as, quote, no-shows, end quote, at the colleges and universities where they're supposed to be taking their courses, according to government figures for 2 months last spring. So even by the government figures, which are going to be wildly underrepresentative normally, it's insane. Numbers obtained by the Globe and Mail show the non-compliance students made up, let's say, 7% of the total number of international students recorded by immigration, refugees, citizenship. Universities and colleges are required by the Immigration Department to report twice a year on whether international students are enrolled and going to class in compliance with their permits. What's amazing is I still have the nightmare of not realizing that I was registered for a class and missing it. And then at the end of the semester, I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know I had class. And then you miss your exams. It's a nightmare that never goes away. What do you think the top 5 countries are? Did you see, if you've already if I spoiled the punchline, don't answer. Oh, it's right there. No, whatever. Top 5 countries, people. India, China, Nigeria, Ghana, and Iran. It's actually now, so hold on. Compliant. I should restructure it based on order of compliance, because I'd love to know just where the foreign students are coming from. Like I'm noticing a trend. compliant overall. India is half of the Canadian, is half of the student visa population. India, which we have our problems with India, or at least Khalistani issues in Canada. China, we have our issues with Chinese infiltration into the Canadian government, both apparently conservative and liberal parties. We have issues with Chinese spies, doing gain of function research in Canada, then absconding to China. We have problems in terms of training Chinese soldiers for wintertime combat on Canadian soil, oddly enough, carried out by the Minister of, what was his name? Minister of Defense at the time, who happened to be an Indian member of parliament. Nigeria, Ghana, and Iran. If you wanted to come in as a spy, how would you do it? That way. If you wanted to come in as a potential domestic or international threat and maybe try to cross the border into the States, how would you do it? That way. I love paying ridiculous amounts for rent and not being able to find a doctor. Yeah, well, it's just... but don't worry, guys, because Carney's going to come in there, and if you don't get in line with the climate change agenda, you's going to get punished. Polish Prince says, Viva, please interview the Polish presidential candidate Karol Nawrocki, PIS, in the upcoming May 2025 election. Absolutely, I'd love to. Just as long as they speak English, because my Polish is, I know one word, Freiheit, because I think it's the same word in Polish as it is in German. But my granddad was Polish. Granddad on the father's side, Polish. Grandmother on the father's side was the Ukrainian Russian. And then my mom's side was all Romanian, but all Eastern European and all Jewish. So that's that. Let's go over that. Well, I'm going to take some chat and then take some questions over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And this will be the exclusive part, but it's going to be across all platforms. So if you want to see the questions, the comments to which I'm responding, I shall give ye all the link to Locals, but we're going to focus on that chat right now. Link to Locals, bada bing, bada boom. Make sure I didn't miss anything over here on Rumble. And let's go to Locals. Encryptus in the house says, I'm pretty sure I'm still on the right side, the right on the saint. There is a different story about the same saint from Romania from the year 1206 and has the same iconography as was the image showed. Sorry to whoever said it was a modern saint. There is no evidence that I can find on that with the similar iconography. Big brain status remains intact. Encryptus says, I knew that answer didn't need AI. I live in an Orthodox country, and my in-laws live in Filote on Saint Filote Street. Well, that'll get you the answer. That's like the fortuitous turn of events in Slumdog Millionaire, where the guy like knows the answer for the reason of his life and knew it all along. And yeah, that's funny. All right, so now I'm going over on to the. How'd you land this one, Viva? Looking forward to listening to this. Says nuance matters. You ask, you try, and you hope that your reputation precedes you. And you hope that he doesn't follow me on Twitter. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm joking. He does. But screw it, everybody. I swear on Twitter. That's my life, and that's reality now. I just finished watching the Romanian president on Alex Jones at 9:40 on January 14, 2025. Says Don Zvi Hansis posts a tweet. Let's see what's in the tweet. Oh, check this out. Well, I'm not gonna. Oh, this is him on Alex Jones. I'll give everybody the link to that actually. Cool. I'm gonna go watch it. I listened to a bunch of his interviews before, so it's good to know. Be sufficiently familiar with what's going on. Gray 101 says, lorsque une nation perd sa liberté, toute l'humanité est diminuée. When one nation loses its liberty, all of humanity is diminished, equally diminished. Freeland as PM is nightmarish. Really hope that doesn't happen, says Sally O'Malley. Well, she would be the PM only in the interim until see, that's the thing. Hold on. You can replace the PM without. Can you replace the prime minister without triggering a federal election in Canada? I think you can. I don't think. Change in leadership within the same party. If the current prime minister resigns or is removed from their position from their own party, the party can appoint a new leader to become the prime minister. This can be done by yada, yada, yada. If the government loses a confidence vote, that's how they, okay. To summarize, yes, it's possible to replace the prime minister without triggering a federal election. And if that change happens within the ruling party and the new leader can command confidence. Okay, fine. So it doesn't automatically trigger a non-confidence vote, But if they did replace, let's just say, Justin Trudeau with a dog, no, they would actually never call an election again, because I think more people would like having a dog as prime minister than Justin Trudeau. But yeah, so that's it. It doesn't automatically trigger the non-confidence, but presumably, if that were to happen, the other parties would say, not so fast. Let's trigger a non-confidence and hold a new election. Do we do something here? Let me see something here. Biden declares remarks on a ceasefire deal. Really? All right. Well, we're going to do another unexpected one here. I had heard rumorings that there was a deal. We're going to watch this. I'm going to get some more chat in the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, and then I'm going to go exercise. Let me see what we got here. We will begin shortly. Let's see what this hostage deal is.
Between Israel and Hamas.
Let's see here. How do we? Here we go. Okay, you guys, we'll watch.
Good afternoon.
I haven't seen
this
this
yet. It's a very
yet.
good afternoon.
Oh yeah, very good.
Because at long last,
how many hostages are left?
A ceasefire.
How many Palestinians are dead?
Has been reached between Israel and Hamas. More than 15 months of conflict began with Hezbollah's brutal massacre on October the 7th. More than 15 months of terror for the hostages, their families, the Israeli people. More than 15 months of suffering by the innocent people of Gaza. Fighting in Gaza will stop, and soon the hostages will return home to their families. The elements of this deal were what I laid out in detail this past May, which was embraced by countries around the world and endorsed overwhelmingly by the UN Security Council. The deal is structured in 3 phases. Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza.
Yeah, whatever's left.
And the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. And I'm proud to say Americans will be part of that hostage release in phase 1 as well.
Well, the ones that are still alive.
The Vice President and I cannot wait to welcome them home. In exchange, Israel released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. And during phase 1, the Palestinians can also return to their neighborhoods in all the areas of Gaza. And the surge of humanitarian assistance into Gaza will begin. And the innocent people can have a greater access to these vital supplies. You know, during the next 6 weeks, Israel will negotiate the necessary arrangements to get phase 2, which is a permanent end of the war. Let me say it again, a permanent end
he will get a permanent. There's nobody. How many
details
hostages do they have left?
To move from phase 1 to phase 2. But the plan says if negotiations take longer than 6 weeks, the ceasefire will continue as long as the negotiations continue. I've spoken to the Emir of Kuwait and the President of Egypt, and we.
Did something just go? Oh, and that's my internet. I'm looking at how many hostages are left. It's my internet. Well, you know that might be. It might be worth. You know what? Let's just get out of there. The media could not be played. That's curious. Well, let's just get to this. Yeah, okay. He laid out precise contours of this plan in May, even as we welcome the news. It's amazing. 15 months later, tens of thousands of dead people later, hostages murdered later. These fucking idiots pat themselves on the back for doing too little, too late, when things could have been done wildly different from day one. Okay, doesn't matter. Now, in our locals community, Biden's chip in his brain just melted. I don't know what happened. I don't even know if that was part of the if the video. Well, it seems maybe on my thing just got updated. All right, whatever. So good for them. He gets to say he struck the deal. It wasn't Trump. It was him. Even though it's a shitty deal, presumably that's just nonsense. 5 days before he leaves office, when the devastating, there's nothing more to destroy. I don't know how many hostages have been killed. I don't know how many are left to even. It's just. As of the latest information, Hamas is reportedly holding 98 hostages in Gaza. How many did they take? How many hostages did Hamas take on October 7? Hamas took 94 hostages on October 7, 2023. They took 93, 94. How many? As of the latest, around 100 hostages, 101 from October 7 are still believed to be held in Gaza. It's giving me different numbers of how many are left versus how many were taken in the first place. All right, heading back over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Biden's chip in his brain just melted, says JC14. I have an entire season, just haven't taken the time to watch it. Okay, hold on. There was another tipped question, which I will get into. Tipped question. Roostang says, after recently taking a poke at Ben Shapiro on X about his position on the Andrew Tate trial, are you trying to angle for a debate with him? Debate. Look, it's an amazing thing. The tribalism on the internet, trying to have a reasonable, sincere, open discussion on the internet. It's impossible. And you open a deluge of like, it's literally like, I took my kid, we went to Loxahatchee today to identify the turtle shell that I found the other day, and it turns out it is a peninsula cooter, so I can keep the shell. On the way back, I noticed a big pile, a red anthill, and I had a little beef jerky, and I was like, hey, check this out. I bite a little piece of beef jerky off, and I just drop it on the top of the mountain. Within 30 seconds, it's like there's a swarm of fire ants destroying, like just biting, now tearing that thing apart. That's what it's like trying to have a discussion on the internet when people are thoroughly A, convinced, B, have no interest in sincerely understanding what the discussion is about, and where the and I can't look. I'm guilty of it too. I go in there and take my digs at Gavin Newsom, at Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, Justin Jagmeet Singh, and everybody. But it's impossible to have a meaningful discussion, and it's actually almost frustrating and borderline overwhelming, where it's like it's crazy. Everybody is wildly convinced and arguing with themselves, arguing with their perceptions of what the other person is truly trying to say. Everybody's a liar. Everybody's a shill. Everybody's in it for clicks and yada yada yada. I'd have the discussion because I ultimately think, bottom line, people have learned nothing. They've learned nothing from the lawfare. They've learned nothing from the abusive process. And they've learned nothing about not prejudging and bypassing due process. You know, when it comes to the Brett Kavanaughs, when it comes to the Trumps, when it comes to, and I'm not comparing the people, I'm comparing the processes. When it comes to the Julian Assange, everybody forgets. Oh, yeah, Julian Assange was accused of rape. Oh, but he didn't. There was video evidence there was no video evidence of Julian Assange's rape. You got interviews where the Tates are saying tremendously stupid things. That's everyone. Oh, it's great. Like they've broken the laws everywhere. They broke the laws in America because America has laws that prevent people. They're dual citizens, so they can arrest them, but they haven't been charged. So somehow the prosecutors in America must be protecting the Tates. And everybody's convinced. There hasn't been a trial. There hasn't been any evidence in the actual sense adduced. There's been thus far unlawful abusive pretrial detainment for 3 months. There's been thus far charges brought years after accusations are made. There's been charges brought, and then, to some extent, oddly enough, rejection of exculpatory evidence. And everybody is already convinced that they're 1,000% right. And anybody who dares say there's a difference between a convicted rapist and an accused trafficker, whatever that means, it's crazy. And no, it is tribalist. It's worse with some people than with others. But I'd have the discussion because I think Ben Shapiro's wrong. He put out a video saying, conservatives should not be any more okay with. They should be equally as outraged about the Tate accusations as they are with the UK rape gangs for which there have been convictions. And I said it's materially different. And on the one hand, I don't know very many conservatives, capital C conservatives, that are out there like praising Tate. I personally have always thought he's a bit of an idiot. I've always thought his advice is stupid. I don't think he's a good influence on kids. I don't think he's a role model of a man. And I think his whatever business he was involved in is truly disgusting. To go from there to say, well, he's a rapist and a pedophile and a criminal. Well, okay, if and when he gets convicted, I'll reassess. Until then, he's accused. Until then, I could argue, until then, I'm suspicious of state powers. Until then, he is merely accused. There hasn't been any evidence yet, and it's materially different than the grooming rape gangs of the UK, for which there have been convictions and evidence adduced confirming it. That, and I just don't think that there's many conservatives who are out there celebrating Tate. I mean, he's in what they call the manosphere, not the conservative sphere. And there's a bunch of people out there saying, Tate's a man. He's a role model of what a man should be. And I don't agree. Oddly enough, a lot of people in the manosphere, they don't seem to have families. And I say that without judgment, but if your advice is how to be a successful man and a proper male role model, I'd say there's no more fine example of that than being a father. There are other ways to do it. But anyways, so the bottom line, yeah, I threw some meat into a red ant nest. And there are people out there who aren't able to distinguish between evidence and public statements which are what they are, but not necessarily more than what they are, and a corrupt state. I mean, it's the amazing thing. This is Romania. Unlawfully locks up an individual for 3 months to release them. And all of a sudden, the same corrupt government of Romania that's overturning elections, now we trust it in pretrial charges against people because you've convinced yourself that they're a legitimate target. Forgetting that when it comes to everybody, what they do is rape accusations. I won't name names because some of the slander survives the exoneration. He and his brother were kind of piggish men, seducing. They're disgusting. They what he was doing, if it's not illegal, it's still immoral. And I said it at the time. And at the time, I also said what he's saying sounds like it might be running afoul of what they call the Romeo laws in Romania. But have we forgotten? Like he's been charged, he's been accused, people involved in porn. It's a disgusting, filthy industry. There's a reason why most people have nothing to do with it, and the people who have something to do with it are not necessarily the best role models in life. There's more to being a man than driving a fancy car and blowing your money and not having a family and smoking cigars and talking about hitting women. He talks stupid stuff. And when I run into kids, like 10, 12-year-old kids, boys predominantly, who think that that's what it means to be a man, and I say, yeah, it's kind of stupid. It's kind of stupid advice. But that being a repulsive, immoral, degenerate who operates in murky legal operations does not make someone guilty, certainly before trial has occurred. And so my only point was the comparison that Ben Shapiro was making, other than the fact that I'm not convinced conservatives with a capital C are actually praising Tate. It's not comparable. And immoral, disgusting business is not the equivalent of the UK rape gangs. And to even make the comparison diminishes the severity of the UK rape gangs. Let me see this. This looks like it might be funny. Future Americans will be shocked that we elected a felon to the presidency. When they see footage of Jan 6 and Trump rallies, they will start to understand what kind of people supported him. And I can't tell. I mean, this is the world in which we live. I can't tell if that's supposed to be sarcastic or serious. Monsieur Freiheit, Grey 101 says, s'il vous plaît, dites à l'auditoire que beaucoup d'entre nous, les fonctionnaires qui travaillent à domicile, ne sommes pas paresseux. Je travaille avec une diligence de cette manière pendant des années. Grey 101 wants me to tell everybody. Please tell your audience. This is over in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. A lot of us, functionaries. What's the word for functionary? Like government employees, work from home, are not lazy. We work with the same diligence for years. And Encryptus says, according to Wikipedia, grain of salt, of course, it says that about 250 hostages were taken. Latest reports show 20 remaining. The number 97, 98, depending on the source, reported that in October. The estimates remaining varies depending on source. We shall find out soon. There's very few left. But I have a discussion with Ben. I think I'm going to go on with Shannon Joy tomorrow. Like it's many things. You come out and all you say is they haven't been convicted yet, so it's not comparable to the Muslim UK rape gangs. The Pakistani men who have been convicted of it. Oh, you come out and say that. Oh, he's shilling for Tate. Fuck, I don't think Tate likes me very much. And then Shannon Joy says, don't tether yourself to the Tate. It's like, what? I don't even know what that means. And then you're like, everybody in their tribes, like, oh yeah, it's too late. Viva's already done. He's shilling for the Tates. Hold on. You come out and you say, I don't think Candace Owens is an anti-Semite, and then I'm a self-hating Jew. Then I'm public enemy number one, and I'm shilling for Candace. You come out, you understand that. Like first, people don't even understand the way it's been done over and over and over again. And due process. People don't understand what due process is anymore. Oh, I've seen the evidence. You haven't seen any evidence because a trial hasn't started yet. What you've seen are things that you put together to make a theory of the case. Oh, he's made some public statements where he says 15, 16 years old, whatever the age of consent is. He's had some videos where he's slapping some people. It's truly repulsive stuff. But there's a layer, and I'll tell you one thing. I'm not even going to mention the name because I made the mistake once before, and you don't always know what's going on. And when his defense is as fleshed out as the internet's theory of the case, then we'll know. But the comparison was wrong, period. And I think Ben was wrong for it. And it's fine. That's where it ends. Usually. Locals, get back in here and see what's going on. But it is, you understand how people just get like overwhelmed and fed up and just check out of trying to have any public discourse, because it's so, if I show you the comments and I can't help it, like, especially when I'm in a bad mood. And then when I'm in a bad mood, you want to engage with it even more because it sort of feeds the general mood that you're in. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Times of Israel, Trump envoy swayed Netanyahu more in one meeting than Biden did all year. Gray 101 says, thank you, sir. Viva, look forward to you and Ben Shapiro having a debate. Roostang says, the debate. I also hate the word debate because I'm not an expert on certain things, but I can have a discussion. Martha says, Viva's balanced level-headedness breaks the internet yet again. No, and then you make one mistake, because I did, the headlines recently was that the trial had been postponed. They can't go to trial. And I'm like, they dropped the charges. And I was like, so he says, he was the charges, that they brought against him. And I was like, the charges that were dropped. You make one mistake, especially like when you make a mistake in discourse, it's different. When you make a mistake on Twitter and everyone thinks when you're engaged in a discussion that every back and forth is like a dissertation. You make one mistake about not an innocuous fact, it's a relevant fact, but irrelevant to the debate. Because the fact that the charges haven't been dropped and the trial it's been postponed, but the trial for the Tates is going to come back. It's irrelevant to the underlying point was that nobody's been convicted yet, so you can't compare convicted rapists with accused sex traffickers. You make one mistake, and then it's like, I once trusted you, man. I thought you knew what you were talking about. All right. Then you just have to stop. Do you guys want to see the turtle shell? It's a so I find the turtle shell when I'm biking, and I'm not. I think I'm pretty decent at it was a turtle. It was in the swamp, and it was totally cool, totally. So then someone's like, that's the box tortoise. It's a tortoise. It's like, no, I don't think it is. I'm like, yeah, it is. And then I start packing. So that's like, first of all, I'm taking this thing. I go to Loxahatchee, which is the Arthur R. Marshall Reserve. It's beautiful, and we have a brick on the path, the walkway path. And then I go, it's like, do you guys want this? Like, you for educational purposes? It's like, yeah, we already got a bunch of turtle shells in the back. I say, well, can you tell me what kind of turtle it is? Because someone said it's a tortoise, and I'm certain it's not, because it has like the little wisps on the back of the shell, and it's like an ovular shell. Anyhow, so it's a peninsula cooter, and it's a big ass peninsula cooter. And they say you can keep it. We don't need it, and that's it. So it's a beautiful shell. Now I'm going to get to teach my kid. The turtle spine is fused inside its shell. Totally, totally cool. Viva is getting baited by people looking for engagement. Yeah, but it says record us. But then I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't want. I said this to somebody. You're right. But then I don't always want to say, I don't have to respond to that person. They're just baiting for engagement. Like, there is some criticism. We're like, you don't get. I don't want to feel like I'm saying everything's a troll that I don't want to have to address. And then you address it, and then it's just. Then you're like, oh shit, yeah, okay. This was never sincere in the first place. To my leftist friends here in Portland, just know that the propaganda talking points and nothing more. I can't have honest conversations with them. I can't have on without them losing they bickets. That's from Crash Bandit. Those people must be masturbators, says Encryptors. Oh, well played, sir. Well played. Then we got Bondi to Shifty Shift. I'm not going to mislead this body, nor you. You were censored for Congress for comments like these. I haven't watched enough. I'm going to go watch it over. I'm not... Not that I wasn't particularly interested. I was a little bit more concentrated on conducting a proper interview with Călin Georgescu. I had to double check the pronunciation of the name. It's Călin. Călin and not Călin, but the Americanized version is Călin. And I hope I did good. Okay. Locals. Let me see what's going on here. I'm going to refresh and see what's on the left in terms of questions. Yeah, I'll give a thumbs up to that. Let's see here. That's a red-ear turtle. Oh, so hold on. Maybe not. That looks like maybe. Dude, there's two turtles on a drum set. What the heck is going on here? See, this thing is like it was not this portion that was the giveaway. First of all, some of the flakes are coming off. Look at these. So what is this? This has to be Hyphen. Hyphen says, I use mine as drums. Oh, are those not, those are living turtles, are they not? Nope, there's no turtle in those. Well, mine is a big drum. Mine's bigger than your snare, actually, I think. Hyphen. You did good. Great interview. Only issue was the guest audio in Cryptus. Yeah, it's it was like coming in and out also where it was loud when we were crossing over, but it was good. Sorry, I got you crazy about keeping it DLE 17. No, it wasn't even that. So my wife, as she's coming back yesterday, they spot that cat that we talked about, a very, very sick cat. And so the rescue people for the cat, she's telling them, and I sent her the picture, and they say that's a tortoise. I'm like, I don't think that's a tortoise, but if it is, I better go give it to an educational institution. Anyway, speaking of which, I'm going to go for a bike ride now and maybe find another turtle or bobcat. Who knows? Now you pick up animal bones. You got to ask, like, hey, am I allowed? Google, am I allowed picking up bones, shells, whatever? Okay. We'll get a couple more comments over in the chat before we do this. Would you be willing to talk with a Romanian who has a different opinion of Georgescu? For sure, but not just for the sake of having fights. Blank in mom. Oh, what we do. Yeah. Not just for the sake of gossip. Policy questions. Not looking to, as far as what grifting goes in my book, I'm not interested in sowing discord among people, but I'll have discussions. I missed the interview. Is he a commie? Okay, no, he is not a commie. Hyphen. Okay, so that's it. Locals. So I'll send everyone the link over on Locals. It's going to be live with Dr. Drew at 6 o'clock Eastern. And in the meantime, I'm going to go tend to child and go for a bike ride and see wonderful, beautiful nature. That is it. Everybody, thank you very much. Snip, clip, and share away and make the world know about what's going on in Romania, because it is it's the Alex Jones precedent. It's the Julian Assange precedent. So don't sit there and say, oh, yeah, I know that guy. I'm convinced he's a right-wing extremist, so everything he says has to be wrong. Nah. And even if he is, Romanians voted. They voted for him, and the Constitutional Court has no business rendering such an unconstitutional usurpation of democracy. So go, enjoy the day. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Hold on. The book. Whatever, people. I'll get the book. I'll promote Louis the Lobster when I'm sure that it's available on Amazon. We had to make some last-minute changes, and we exceeded the border. So when the book is ready, Louis the Lobster by David Frei, hosted, illustrated by Abigail Marsden, put together by my wonderful wife, Marion. Get one at Amazon. I'll send out the link. It's going to be amazing. Go and enjoy the day, and I will see you all tomorrow at some point, for sure. Peace, Godspeed, God bless.